Hey, Ghost Machine fans, this one's for you.
Welcome to the Ghost Machine Fans Podcast, episode 88. 'Twas the night before Christmas, and all through the store there were Ghost Machine comics lining the shelves and more. The bags and boards were laid out with care, and the trade paperbacks stocked so high, nothing was left bare. The super fans were nestled all snug in their beds, while visions of variant covers danced in their heads. I'll be your Saint Nick tonight, and I'm joined on this Christmas Eve by a surprise Yuletide co-host. He's been on the show a few times before and regularly collaborates with us on Instagram. It's Rob from Comic Book Chronicles.
How did you get that voice? You've got that perfect baritone storybook type of keep going, man. Jeez, finish the story.
I know. When I was putting that together, I didn't think about the fact that the night before, when you pull up The Night Before Christmas, it is a lengthy yarn. And and I was like, man, I can't go the whole way. Yeah, we'd run out.
See, you know what you need to do is you need to read the entire story on Christmas Day. That's what you need to do.
Right, and it was only appropriate, I felt, to do that little shtick because today is Christmas Eve. I'm so stoked to have your return be heralded by this momentous eve, sir.
Absolutely. Nick, if I told you just how stoked I am and how primed and set I am to be back here on the Ghost Machine Fans Podcast, you'd look at me and you'd say, "Hey, easy there, fella." I'd say, "Hey, man, the pod won't cast itself."
That's
and
right.
then you'd be like, "Word."
The one must cast the pod. So
one must cast the pod. How can you not?
For those who haven't, it may not recall. I mean, I'm sure everybody recalls. You've been on the show, I think, 5 or 6 times now, and you've got some cool stuff going on. You've been more and more active. I've always really loved your 2-minute comic review videos because you somehow combine hilarity with actual critique in a very short period and digestible period of time. And you've gotten a lot of responses from some really cool people in the industry, especially from Ghost Machine of late, including some collaborations that have been joined. So just remind everybody about you, what you do, and where to find you.
Well, my name is Rob, and I'm on TikTok at Comic Book Chronicles, and I'm on Instagram at Comic Book Chronicles Rob. I'm also on YouTube at Comic Book Chronicles Rob. You can find me other places, but those are the 3 main ones. And yeah, I do little chewy 2 to 4 minute comic book reviews. I try and incorporate some irreverence and some humor in there, but I do try and also give some genuine critique and offer my perspective. Yeah, I'm extremely grateful, Nick, to be collaborating with you and for everybody over at Ghost Machine who has been nice enough to comment, even follow in some cases. I'm just always been really grateful to the Ghost Machine fans and this community, and I'm really grateful to be here today.
Awesome. So hey, don't you have a new thing you're doing though that's like an awards thing, the Baldies? Isn't that a thing you have going on?
It's a thing. It's a thing, my guy. No, the first ever Baldy Awards. And Nick, I heard you shout me out on a recent episode of the podcast, and I want to thank you for that. My favorite part of your shout out was when you had to explain to your audio audience why they are called the Baldy Awards. Rob is bald, folks. I absolutely love that. Yeah, they are called the Baldy Awards because I, in general, am a follically challenged person. Yeah, they're my end of the year awards, basically. I'm shouting out, I think it's 10 comic books this year that I really loved and enjoyed and I think deserve recognition. And not just any Baldy Award, but the first Baldy Award ever went to Hyde Street. Jeff Johns, Yvonne Reese, that whole crew. I thought, they did a really commendable job this year. And then I just gave out another one to Jeff Johns, Jason Fabok, and the crew at Rook Exodus. So, again, some of the best comic book art I've ever seen, generally speaking, is on display in Rook Exodus. So, yeah, I'd love for you folks to check out the Baldy Awards. They're going to kick into high gear during the last week of the year here, so you'll start seeing them day by day.
That's great because it's an awesome way to wrap up Nuclear Winter, because right around the time that Rob's going to be doing a lot of that is when we're going to be finishing up Nuclear Winter, which leads me to our shout out for this week, which is to Dust Mans 1138. That's DUSTMANS 1138 on Instagram, aka Dusty Fields, was the winner of our week 1 Nuclear Winter giveaway. And Dusty posted this really cool image of him, in front of his collection, holding the book and mentioning us. And it was just really, really neat. So thanks a lot for doing that. And make sure to check out Dustman's 1138 for his cool content. And don't forget that Nuclear Winter carries on. Right now, we already gave away a 1-for-20 ratio variant of Rook Exodus number 7, that fire hot Gary Frank cover. Very excited. But enough about that. And my wife, my spouse, she's not with me. She's with the kid. So as has been the case in the past when Robert has graced us with his presence, Comic Book Chronicles is in the newsroom.
That's right, folks. Today is Wednesday, December 24th. Our top story tonight, what is wrong with us? It's Christmas Eve. Full disclosure, folks, we're not recording on the actual day, but don't tell anyone. Anyway, December 24th is the release date for Sisterhood, a Hyde Street Story number 5, which we're deep diving into on this episode of the show. Hornsby and Halo number 13 and the Rockefellers 11 are also coming out. We also recently saw the solicitation for Geiger number 22, which has an A cover that shows us Tariq Geiger and the Northerner looking on at what appears to be Tariq Geiger's family before the unknown war. What's going on there? What's happening? I don't know. I've got questions. You've got questions. There are questions to be answered. And here at Ghost Machine Fans, we like questions. Do we not, Nick?
We do. And so that's a big question, though. It's significant. And so it's almost so significant that, like, hey, if you haven't read the Geiger books and you don't want to feel spoilage, like, skip ahead the next 90 seconds of this podcast, hit that forward 30 thing 3 times on your phone. But the cover, and it could be nothing. It could be like representative of something, right? Like that happens in comics. Yeah. We know that. It may not literally mean that, but it looks as though it's the Northerner and Geiger in his future state. He's not glowing, but he's wearing his gear. So it's future Geiger. They're under a copse of a tree or something, and they're watching Tariq and his family play soccer or something outside of a home. And so to me, if taken literally, that means that the Northerner, for some reason, uses his time traveling, we don't know, technology or magic or abilities or what yet, to take him back to that moment. And it's well, what does that mean? So that's a big tease right there.
It's got definite intriguing implications as far as, how it impacts Tariq, how it could potentially impact and change the future of the Ghost Machine universe. Questions, my friend.
I know. I am imagining something to the effect of he needs to motivate him and just remind him of what he was or something,
Mm-hmm.
or like because
Yeah.
maybe he strays, but that's just me casting the die into the ether, right? Who knows? I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's a lot of potential directions that it could go. The possibilities aren't endless per se, but they are quite vast.
For sure. Excited to hear more about that story when we go beyond the solicits, right?
Mm-hmm.
But as is appropriate for Christmas, I'm sure everyone does this on Christmas. It's time for us to talk about a horror comic book
Naturally.
for the next,
Naturally.
you know,
Let's talk about young women maiming each other. Come on.
possession.
Yeah, come on.
Like death by
It's the holiday
fire.
spirit. There you go.
Oh, but before we
I'm
deep
ready.
dive, we have to talk about the covers. And they're really cool covers. And there's kind of an out of left field cover. I don't, if you didn't know, here too, but I think Layla Lee's, I don't want to say she's underrated, but she's not well known enough, is what I'll say. She needs to be more well known. I think we need to see her in tons of more stuff. But the A covers her and Alex Sinclair, like superstar colorist Alex Sinclair that we all know and love.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like this kind of akin to a yin and yang thing, right? Where it's Sophie and Violet in the water fighting each other, but the water's on fire and there's melting faces and things.
There's almost a swirling effect going on here with the effect of the like a whirlpool type effect with them being trapped in the center. But yeah, the yin yang effect did occur to me. Yeah, very strong cover, and of course it's representative of something that we see in the issue with Sophie and Violet in very much in conflict.
Did you realize before prepping for this that Brian Hitch and Brad Anderson did the B cover for this issue?
I didn't immediately recognize that it was them. When I looked at it, it made sense, but no, it didn't immediately register, and I'm not sure why that is. But I have to tell you, I really dig what they did here. A nice swampy vibe, if you will, with the sort of the raised water, and we've got corpses, ladies and gentlemen, and just something that you don't. I don't want to say you wouldn't expect Brian Hitch to be involved with, but I didn't anticipate a variant cover from him. But hey, I welcome it.
You know, it's funny. The thing that made me think Brian Hitch at first wasn't his art, which to me now I can totally recognize just with how much I'd spent looking at his art. But it was just because it's a wraparound. And I was like, oh yeah, that's like what Brian does. I was, oh, that is Brian.
It is. You might have seen it. I just picked up Red Coat number 15, so I'm starting to read his stuff on a more regular basis nowadays too.
Oh yeah, and there's the movie coming out. You got to be on.
I heard about
on top
that.
of your red coat. You got to be.
Well, they've got that second trade. That's if it's not out now, it's coming out soon. Yes.
It is out, and that one you're talking about the one that has the Northerner and Simon on the cover,
yes,
like back to back. Yeah, that's out. That's a really cool looking one. Yes, it is a great time to be a Redcoat fan. It's also a great time to jump into being a Redcoat fan. You could just like buy the trades and then go add it to your pull list and snag a couple of other issues if you like to collect too, because there is a movie coming out, and bam, you're off to the races, baby.
There you go. I read the first trade. I caught up with the first trade. And what I appreciated about that was that it had 7 issues in it as opposed to what you might get from Marvel or DC with the standard like 5 or 6. So you're getting a good bang for your buck with that one.
And they look beautiful on the shelf. If you're a completionist, I'll tell you, I got them. They're awesome. You got to get them. So we're talking about the conclusion of Sisterhood, which makes this your official spoiler pause. All right, we're here. We've made it. We can catch up on this horrific comic on Christmas Eve. This reminds me like the first time I ever saw Shawshank Redemption. I was like 10 years old on Christmas Eve. Like, doesn't that make any sense whatsoever?
Wow.
That's like this Christmas Eve, except it's Sisterhood. the
I was
conclusion
gonna
of
say
Sisterhood.
they weren't Christmas Story fans in your household growing up. You couldn't get It's a Wonderful. No, this is Shawshank Redemption. This makes sense.
It was.
Jeez Louise.
I think in the beginning of the movie when he finds the people murdered, it's winter. So
Okay, well that's we'll go ahead and put that one in your column then.
well, in my parents' defense, we still would watch National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation too. So
Oh God, I haven't seen that in forever.
counts for a lot. Now we're gonna get back into the horror verse. It's a Hyde Street Story. Just as a reminder, Sisterhood, a Hyde Street Story. And Rob, would you mind giving us a creator roll call?
Creator roll call. Our author is Maytel Zahoot. Our artist is Layla Lees. Our colorist is the aforementioned Alex Sinclair with letters by Rob Lee. And our editor is Brian Cunningham. And our designer is Steve Blackwell.
Rob Lee.
Mm,
He does all of the letters and all the land.
most definitely.
And it's cool imagery, right? Because what they give you the snapshot on the page with the crew there as the book starts, where it's Violet in Sophie's body in control, holding the blade up, and then that scared Sophie in the reflection in the blade. And that's we're gonna talk about where this thing kicks off. And I think it's really impressive throughout to keep in mind how it is easy to understand the cadence of possession and the person who's in control and who's not. Like, they do an amazing job of making that abundantly clear, which is often very, very difficult to follow.
That's true. I mean, on paper, it can be confusing to wait. It's who and who's talking here. But no, I mean the nature of the possession is a large part of the body of the issue that we're about to get into. So I imagine even if you're a dope like I am, it would be a little bit difficult to forget what's going on. So they do a nice job in that respect.
You and I were talking before the show about how you have a unique relationship with Layla's art, right?
Well, I don't know if it's a relationship, but I've been reading this book month to month. I've been following along, and when I talked about this, I think in my short form reviews, when we got to issue 3, I was in, and we're on issue 5 here, but when we got to issue 3, I was inclined to be critical of some of Layla Lee's art because I thought she was making Sophie in particular look very young, almost little girlish. Like I believe the scene is in that issue where she's sitting adjacent to a cop car and she's talking to the cops, and it's just like, why does she look like such a little girl? It was odd to me. I didn't voice that because I didn't have a firm grasp on it yet, but yeah, I sort of filed that away in my mind. And then what happened? Here at Comic Book Chronicles headquarters, we got ourselves a babysitter to watch my 6-year-old and my 4-year-old daughters. And I had not met this girl face to face up until she was in my house, but she is around the age that Sophie and Violet are supposed to be, early college years. And I see this girl walk in my house, and I'm like, this girl looks like a baby. Like she had this youthful exuberance on her, and it's like, how can this baby babysit my 2 babies? You know what I mean? It's like they had similar youthful qualities about them. And that was when I kind of realized that, oh, it's not that Layla Lees is drawing them too young. It's that my eyes are too old. And everybody who's below the age of about 25 looks like they have a certain youthfulness to them to me. So, but I mentioned that. I more or less told the same story I just told you in a short form video review, and Layla Lees gave it a like, and I believe it was after that video that she was nice enough to give me a follow. So A hat tip to Layla Lees for being a good sport and just being generally cool.
For sure. Looking forward to seeing
Mhm.
her pencils and inks in many a page more in the future,
Mhm.
hopefully.
Most definitely. Most definitely. You know, it was I mean, this whole sisterhood story, it didn't spin out of the It Happened on Hyde Street Devour one shot that came out last year, but I believe it was this entire same creative team that did that issue. It was Maytel Zahoot and Layla Lees and Alex Sinclair, and
Mm-hmm.
that was one of my favorite comics of 2024. So I was really excited to see them get a shot at something longer form as they did here.
Who knows what's next? Guess we'll just have to see.
There you go.
So to catch us up on where we're at, this opening page is awesome. The sorority is ablaze, right? It's not hard to jump right in. And as we've noticed before, the letters for the sorority spell out sin. And in this case, the N is coming down. Like it's very like absolute anarchy is going on.
Mm-hmm. Yep. The end is not near. The end is here. And yeah, so we've got Sophie, whose body is possessed by the, I guess, spiritual entity Violet. Violet can control Sophie's body and speak for her, and Sophie kind of has a passenger seat to everything that's going on. And indeed, we do see her sort of fighting for her life, as we'll see momentarily. But yeah, we've got the sorority house in flames here. On our opening page here, we see Karma, who is like the lead sorority girl. Am I right there?
Yes,
Okay.
she's like the I don't know what it's called either, but she's the head
So,
one, and like her mom was in charge of a bunch of stuff, and yeah, like
yes.
all that.
Yeah, we've got Karma, and then we've got River, and we've got River sort of pleading, for Karma to get out of here and, leave the freaking burning building. And Karma is very reluctant to leave. The lines that I really liked was, this sorority is my mom's legacy, and we're watching it burn. And I mean, I was not extensively involved with Greek life when I was in college, but my understanding is that a lot of sororities kind of run in the family. You've got sons and daughters and grandsons and granddaughters who go to the same sororities and are part of the same sororities that their families have been. And I thought that was a really cool way to incorporate that element into Karma's character and not make her just sort of a textbook evil sorority chick. You know what I mean?
At least make her vanity have depth and further failing, other than just being a cliche bad chick, for sure.
Yeah, I mean there are elements of that character in there. Don't get me wrong, but I mean it
Mm.
was nice. It was nice that they gave her that layer, that added layer. And I also, talking about Layla Lee's pencils here, I really love the way that she draws Karma's face in the upper left hand corner of the page and in the lower right hand corner of the page. There's always something to be said for quote unquote acting in comic books, and giving it enough juice, giving it enough go, but not overdoing it. I thought that Layla Lee's gave it just the right amount of juice here, just the right amount of emotion to really draw you in.
Yeah, on the bottom right one, you can see the lips and the chin quivering, man.
Mm-hmm. The eyes as well, very expressive, very heartbroken.
But she still got them curlers in. She does. I like
Naturally.
that. I like because it sticks out. Like it's like her evil crown.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, it's like a Game of Thrones for sorority chicks type thing.
Something. Now the next page, it's all it's all Sophie's body at this point, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
but it's half Violet on the top in Sophie's body and Sophie in the bottom, trapped in the evil zombie water death place where like when you die, zombies pull you away through the water to the either somewhere else or who knows. But it's
Mm-hmm.
another thing that Layla, I'm assuming Layla just, it's up to the artist, says like, okay, I'm going to make this a panel that curves through the middle. And then it's going to be so that when they
Mm-hmm.
touch, it's like they're touching through the top and bottom of the, like it, That's really smart stuff, man. Like, that's not just, hey, you're really good at drawing facial expressions. Hey, you're really good at drawing people. Hey, like your superheroes look cool. Like, that's kind of another level of art, right? That's composition that she
Mhm.
chooses to position that way.
It connects the two characters in a way that, I don't know if it's subtle, but it doesn't beat you over the head with it. And I mean, you can tell that obviously there is a sort of, I don't know if you'd call it symbiotic yin and yang, as we mentioned, but yeah, I honestly I hadn't noticed the curve as much, but yeah, that is a good design quirk.
We quickly get the sense of, like, okay, there's a bit of a back and forth here. It seems like almost as if Violet has to vie for the strength of Sophie's body with Sophie, but then she
Mhm.
definitely does win. Like, she gains
Yes,
control.
yes, definitely, definitely. She is firmly in control throughout the entire issue. Actually, I believe at this point she's kind of won the battle, has she not?
Yes, by the time in my mind that we see the two of them with their backs to one another in those two separate panels, and they both go, ah!
Yes.
And then the next
Hmm.
is with the knife and Sophie's face, drowned face in the knife. That to me is when the officially Violet is 100% in control at that point.
Nick, is that how you read that exclamation in your head? The oh,
It is now.
is that how you did that?
It is now, man.
Well, there you go. All right,
Maybe more.
not
Maybe.
how I would have done it. You know what? There's something to be said for performance choice, my friend. That's the thing. No, I love the again the face on Sophie, Sophie's face on the left side here, the one where she's got the knife with the blood dripping from it. That's got great agony on it, and then we've got the sort of Two-Face-ish
Mhm.
shot at the bottom here with the Violet possessed Sophie's evil face contrasted with the reflection in the knife of actual Sophie's terrified face. It's a kind of a movie posterish image, but I mean, it works.
Totally. And that's the one that they use on the page with the creator credits on the front
Yep,
that we were talking
absolutely.
about. This next page is pretty rough. And, because just to clarify, River, who we mentioned, the person River, the third character in this equation, she
Mm-hmm.
was someone earlier who was like there with Karma and was like, yo, we should just go.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, yes, it's a bummer, it's burning, but like, you're not going to stop that, so we have to go now.
Right.
And then rather abruptly, something rather severe happens to that
Mm-hmm.
character.
She gets pushed into some freaking fire. River, wait, don't leave me is what Karma says, and then oddly enough, River makes the same exclamation that Sophie made on the previous page, as she gets pushed into the fire. So apparently, all sorority girls exclaim the same. But no, we see River then burning to death in the following panel, and then in the one below that, we see Karma's terrified face at what she's witnessing. From a mechanical standpoint, I think this is drawn very well, especially when it comes to Karma's face on the lower right hand portion. So it all happens very quickly as far as the progression in your mind is concerned. I don't dislike it. I just think it went by rather quickly.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Happy holidays, everybody.
I was just gonna say Merry Christmas. The one big panel we get though is it is a beautiful, horrifying panel that makes you be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that happened to that person, because it does make it
Yes.
feel abrupt. Um,
Yes.
and then like that abrupt thing is like pain that you don't want to really dwell on. Not to
Okay.
trivialize that. No, I'm just saying for
Right.
me. I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know. No, I don't know for people. I'm just hypothesizing, but I
Right.
totally see where you're coming from. But I was gonna say I think that the look on Karma's face is what really makes it hit anyway, like you said in the beginning.
True. Yeah. And I mean, again, River is not a critical character in this equation. So I mean, you kind of have to do what you have to do.
Yes. But so River's out of the picture. The place is still a burning. I mean, it's really neat how Layla uses the smoke, I guess. That's like smoke trails from the fire to separate the panels. As Violet controlling Sophie's body is doing, what Rob did, the SHNKKK when she slices her arm.
Rob Lee, the letterer. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you seen Psycho?
Long time ago. Did your family watch that on Christmas Eve too?
Probably.
There you go.
At some point. But you know that there's a shower scene where somebody gets killed with a knife, right?
Yes, of course.
And so in that scene, the way that they got the sound, that there are many stabs. Like, I don't remember, but there are like dozens. The way that they got the sound was they took a knife and they just stabbed a watermelon a lot. And so, And so when I saw that sound that Rob Lee does with those letters, that made me think of that.
This is where the fight begins, right? So you've got the Violet possessed Sophie jumping at her here, and she swings the knife at her. She gets a chunk of flesh from her arm. It makes the watermelon sound, for lack of a better term. And the fight kicks off here between the Violet possessed Sophie and Karma, as we juxtapose it with the real Sophie sort of being pulled down into the whirlpool by the zombie corpse type characters that are telling her to give in to the darkness and all that stuff.
Yeah, because throughout that's going on. So is that like just organically evil forces that are in conjunction with the resurrected spirit and twisted and resurrected spirit of Violet, and it's just like a byproduct? You know what I mean? Because it like part of the evil enchantment of the Hyde Street magic.
I would imagine so. I would not call them henchmen, but I mean, I would think that if you're gonna dabble in dark magic, you get some peripheral energy from the underworld, and I guess that's sort of a manifestation of that. I don't know. I certainly don't think these are specific, like, dead sorority sisters or anything like that are pulling Sophie down. I think this is like a manifestation of the dark magic that Sisterhood used, and I don't want to say it's metaphorical, but it's sort of a manifestation of that. That's my take, at least.
It gives Maytal the opportunity to then start speaking to Sophie's self-doubt amidst it. Because the things start saying, like, we know you hide from the world. They're implying she wants to kill herself or like doesn't want to live or whatever anyway. So like they're evil forces. So my assumption is they must, like you're saying, come from Sisterhood's enchantment on the body or whatever, and the spirits involved, because presumably if in this moment Sophie were to succumb, that would just be, a benefit to Violet, and Violet would have full control and they would move on.
Right. But that's my theory, at least.
Karma's a tough girl, though. I mean, she like gets thrown over a desk. She gets, it's like a letter opener that she turns the tide with.
I think so. I really liked this fight, not just because of the juxtaposition with the Sophie and the water stuff. I like the physicality of this fight, and I don't want to generalize here, but I think, or I wonder, if you had a man writing this story, would he have been more inclined to go the cat fight route? Not in the sense that it would have been silly or sexy or something, but like with, hair pulling, scratching, stuff like that, something a little less violent per se. But no, I mean, we've got, like you said, we've got elbows being thrown, we've got knives being wielded. Karma does get thrown onto what I think is a coffee table. And she grabs what I imagine is a letter opener and just schlutches, as the sound effect goes, Sophie in the gut. And just a really, really violent fight here, which is befitting this moment in the story.
what did you think about that bottom of the page where the knife, where Karma gets Sophie's body with the knife, with Violet in control, and then
Mhm.
Violet looks down in the body and sees it, but then we also get the mirror image on the right of Violet's spirit starting to bleed down there in the netherworld waterland. What? Why is
That
that?
that is that's a detail that I didn't pay as much attention to until you mentioned it just now. But yeah, the whole blood in the water effect, and the coloring of the blood in the water as well. It's not bright red as it is on dry land. It's diluted by the water. I think that's a great effect. The dialogue next to that wound really hits hard at that character. Your life was meaningless. Ever since your mom died, you've been a shell of a person. So it's almost like the verbal assault ramps up along with the physical assault.
And it aligns with when Violet later essentially resents the fact that she had to be supportive of Sophie when Sophie lost her mom. So,
Yeah,
like these things are dropping the doubts that align with that malicious, not really your friend mindset that Violet had.
when you grieve somebody, you do retreat inward oftentimes, sometimes for years at a time. And, it makes sense from a human being standpoint that Sophie would retreat inward. And it makes sense that a friend would want to be there for her. But at the same time, different people have different needs. So it injects a nice humanity into Violet's motivation for doing what she's doing.
It's cool because it's Sophie's spirit fighting against these things that are really herself. So she's just fighting against her self doubt. But then at the same
Mm-hmm.
time, Violet is physically continuing to fight with Karma, who is tough as nails, like reprehensible woman, but tough as nails at this point. Like she gets a mirror to the face and she's still going. And at this point, this place is starting to look like the house in Home Alone 2. Like
Mm.
got like the holes in the ceiling. Like this place is coming apart. But then this we get another one of these massive the swish across the page, like what the curve, but this one's
Mm-hmm.
separated by water. And I'm talking about the one where on the top you've got Violet jumping at Karma.
Is she on fire in that shot, or is the fire in the back? I assume the fire is in the background.
Well, so I was looking at that, and it does look as though there is fire that is drawn, intended to be coming off of one of her feet and like her one hand and part of her and her back. And
Yeah.
that kind of jives with the image on the bottom, because the image on the bottom is Sophie's spirit kind of like being strong enough in the moment to break through. And in that image, you see her hands
Um,
have a little bit of fire. So to me, like, I think there's something like just that's indicating like she almost made it out, like she's trying to get
yeah.
out. Like, I'm not sure, but it looks sweet.
No, I mean it makes sense, because she's powerful in that moment, so it
Yeah.
makes sense for her to look powerful. I mean, the reason in theory, parts of her clothing could be on fire. I assume that's not the case, but no,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, she looks fittingly powerful and dynamic in that moment as she continues to fight for her life.
But ultimately, we do know Violet retains control of Sophie's body because she pursues Karma all the way up to the roof.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was neat how when I don't know if that's like a mirror or a window or whatever, but when she's got her backed up and basically as far as she's going to get her backed up, then
Mm-hmm.
Sophie's head pops out of like a window or something from behind,
Yeah,
as if from a puddle. Like then they're actually like talking. Like so, imagine it like it's very cinematic. Like I could see
it
this
is very
happening in a
fun.
movie.
Yeah, I mean her head pokes out of what appears to be like a watery abyss, and then you go down a panel, and you see the zombie type creature with a handful of her hair, and he pulls her back in, which is a great effect. And then we get to the bottom. Well, I assume what we're seeing is not literal. I assume it's again like a metaphorical manifestation. But we've got the another Sophie coming out of Sophie's body. Help me out here. What am I seeing?
I don't know if you would literally see that or if that is a way for the artist to demonstrate to us in the moment. I also don't care because I like comics and I feel like
Yeah.
well, no, I think it's great to bring it up. I wanted to ask you the same thing. Well, I wanted to
Okay.
ask, well, I wanted to ask you the same thing for a different reason, but I wanted to bring it up because I think it's still part of Layla. Layla just chooses to go outside the boundaries of what you're used to seeing. I think that's what I'm trying to say
Mm-hmm.
about her, and that's cool. And I think that's that. But if this was a movie or something, and I literally saw that, I would envision it be like less clayfacey and more like blurry, like the two
Okay.
spirit, like the like I know in this case they are too physical, like even when I say clayfacey, like you can see like even their skin is
Yeah.
twisting as the two. But to me, it's more like they're shifting control of and who's got it. And
Yeah.
I don't know, it just looks sweet anyway.
It's a
Um,
visual metaphor, I think. So I don't think we're literally seeing one body being pulled out of another body. I think you're right. I think it's a visual metaphor for the wrestling for control between Violet and Sophie, as meanwhile you have the Violet possessed Sophie choking Karma. So there's a lot going on once we get to that bottom page, and it's almost like Layla Lee's is sort of changing the lens on reality. Like what we're seeing is not entirely literal, but it's very much happening from a metaphysical standpoint.
from like the way it's positioned, it's very much Sophie's trying to stop Violet from killing someone, which is the ironic,
Mm-hmm.
like overarching irony, you know. And
Mm-hmm.
as it's all happening, it's Violet continuing to say stuff about how resentful she is, basically, that she had to be Sophie's friend when Sophie's mom died. And
Mm-hmm.
that's echoed by her water zombies and them grabbing people.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, the friendship between these two is played up so heavily, especially in the first issue, really effectively. It kind of makes you wonder, in reality, how good of friends were these two girls? I mean, it's one thing for one person to, see someone as such a good friend and sort of change reality in their mind, but it's like at the end of the day, and when we get to black and white truth, how good of friends were they in the grand scheme of things?
That's what it seems like it's revealing.
Mm-hmm.
And if the issue didn't end the way it does, and we won't
Mm-hmm.
fast forward, but if it didn't end the way it does, I would have
Mm-hmm.
always taken all of this as Sisterhood's magic brought out the worst in this spirit that couldn't rest. And I would not have taken it as Violet was kind of a jerk the whole time. But because
Mm-hmm.
of the way it is, to your point, I don't think they were really, it's like there's a lot of things that Sophie tried to do too to help Violet not have to feel like she had to go out and do the things to be popular and accepted and whatever. So, it I think it tells us that Violet, she crazy, she evil. And
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna see why.
I'm glad you mentioned the idea of Sisterhood's magic either warping Violet's spirit, or maybe just being an apparition of Violet the entire time, because I spent much of this series or this book wondering, is this really Violet? Like, is this really her friend? Like, what happened to her? Because this isn't how you would act, even I guess as a ghost towards someone that you loved and cared about. But then as we get into this underwater scene with them kind of wrestling for control, Violet's motivations kind of come unwrapped. You don't know what I went through. You don't know what it's like to lose everything.
Oh,
I can't die again. She's got this desperation element in there. So we sort of get an insight into why her spirit is doing what it's doing and what her ghostly motivation is, as opposed to it just being, an apparition created by Sisterhood.
and this happens because when they dive down in the pool, it appears that Sophie has regained control when they jump off, and she lets go, because then you see that she didn't kill Karma, but Karma's got these wounds on her thing, and then she tries to kill herself because one would assume it's because it's the only way to get rid of her friend permanently, her evil friend, right? And that's when you get all the stuff like you're saying, and that's super horror movie. All this is just so oh my gosh, I can't believe it.
It's she tries to make the sacrifice to get rid of the bad guy, and then in trying to resist, the villain ultimately reveals some of her true motivations.
Ironically, though, because of the nature of, I guess the moment, or the fact that the body is gonna perish, you can see this sweet page where the zombies are pulling Violet to the right and they're pulling Sophie to the left. But then ultimately that means we as readers up to this moment think that means that Violet is taken to the great beyond. And that as a result of, the whoozy was that even to the point where towards the end of it, we see the swirling thing, no, go back to the light, in this case, it's more go to the whirlpool. But
yeah.
But Violet, as she's being pulled away by the zombie horde, says to Sophie, go, one of us can still get out. So in that moment, to me, Maytal is implying to us, hey guys, she's gonna be gone, and it's bittersweet, because she even says, just promise me you'll remember only the good parts. So it's oh well, at least we know it was just Sisterhood's evil magic. Violet wasn't that bad.
Right. Yeah. That's a good line too. Just promise me you'll only remember the good parts. It's very, remember who I was, that kind of thing. It's a nice moment, and presumably it's the end of this character.
Presumably, indeed. Yeah. Not only does it appear to be okay, a resolution, but then she's probably going to be gone from here.
Right.
Really interesting how she literally kind of pops back to it and unties herself from it, which Violet wasn't able to do when it got stuck. And she gets out.
I love the big air bubble on the left side of that one page, the big gasp for air. And of course we see the air literally go out of her, and of course she's about to literally drown, but yeah, she's able to kind of extract herself, and then of course she gets a little help.
She does. And so some hands grab her and pull her out. We get another panel. It shows a part of a female face that's got blonde hair and a purple shirt-ish, a little bit of a purple. And then the blurry image is definitely that, Violet.
Yes.
But then the non-blurry image is evil Karma.
There you go. With her Game of Thrones crown of curls and everything. She has revived Sophie just in time for Sophie to be arrested for burning down this sorority house.
She has. Yeah, because she even is telling the cops to arrest her. She gets taken away, and it appears as though she's in prison and still trying to convince everybody about presumably a supernatural explanation, because the police officer is saying stop with these ridiculous stories, yada yada yada.
She's fighting for her innocence, because to a pretty large extent, she is innocent. I mean, she wasn't in control of her body when she did those things, but you can't argue that necessarily in the court of law.
No,
At least not in this sense.
she's in prison or or whatever. I guess she's on trial because they mentioned she's going to go on trial because they mentioned that.
Right.
But then she has a visitor.
Mm-hmm.
And it's Karma.
Yeah, Karma's back. She's on the phone with her through plexiglass. Karma says she forgives her. She forgives her, and I really like this line too. Karma says, "I'm not the villain you think I am."
Right? And isn't that another great comic book thing, right? Because you kind of have to go back and read that page again to get that double entendre.
Once you get to the end, and then you go back and okay, so she was doing a thing. Karma was doing a thing.
It's because it's normally it would be like, I'm not the villain you think I am. But in this case, it's not that I'm not the villain you think I am. It's like I'm the other villain.
Her face doesn't match the sentimentality of what she's saying. So, in the moment you're it's kind of like, what? But then once you get to the end and come back, all is clear.
She looks like a wolf or something, ready to pounce when she says this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And again, great acting, quote unquote, from Layla Lee's as far as Karma's body language here. Clearly something is wrong here. Clearly, I mean, Karma is saying nice things, but the looks that she's giving, her body language, you can kind of tell that the other shoe is about to drop.
I know, it's smart. It's so smart that if you use it as a storyboard or whatever, it would really be a great way to direct somebody if you needed to help them understand what the kind of character needed to do in the moment. Because it's like this twist. She just says, maybe we didn't lose everything this time. I'm still here, aren't I, Soph? And then the just look of shock.
Yep, and then the lettering is so small when she says Violet. There's your big revelation. It's like she can't believe it, but it's like, here is Violet, the spiritual presence of Violet in Karma's body before her. And this is where Sophie realizes what has happened.
And it's to me, it's like the Tales from the Crypt moment.
It's very classic horror. This is the classic horror twist at the end of the movie or the book or whatnot, where you realize that the bad guy you thought you had vanquished has not been vanquished, or that there's at least a possibility that the evil could come back. In this case, it's very much, oh my gosh, I lost, but I lost even worse than I thought I did, and now the evil is still out there, and it's a great horror moment befitting Ghost Machine's horror franchise, horror line, if you will, Hyde Street.
And it's the type of thing where we could never hear about Sophie and Violet again, and I could just hear about Sisterhood, and these would have been a byproduct of that, and I would be happy. It makes me, I wonder, I imagine we'll still see them at some point.
You think so?
I don't know, one way or another. I hope so. I want more of this creative team doing something, so I don't care what it is.
I like the closing page for the story here. In particular, you've got the shot, the camera, quote unquote, is behind Karma / Violet as she's got her hand on the two-way mirror, which is kind of reminiscent of her, having her hand on Sophie's on a previous page. I like her face in this shot. I like Sophie's face in this shot. And I like the line, too, the closing line, "You'll always be my best friend, Soph." And then you kind of fade out from there. Again, great horror writing. Classic stuff, really.
Isn't that crazy how the reflection, there's three people, three different women in this. Like Karma's reflection is of Violet, and
Yes.
it's because there's no bangs, and the
Right.
one has the earring behind the thing, and it's just like, that's smart stuff, man.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
highly underappreciated type of thing, that
Hmm.
something like, hypothetically, like something perhaps like an artificial intelligence could not come up with that. That's really great. You know what I mean?
Absolutely not. No, absolutely not. No, I mean it's like you said. There's three women in this shot, even though from a physical, literal standpoint, you only have two. And again, it's that way that Layla Lees is kind of playing with the fabric of reality and showing you different things that might not necessarily be there from a literal standpoint, but are very much true nonetheless.
So that wraps up Sisterhood, a Hyde Street Story. We don't know what is next for Maytal, Zahoot, Layla, Lees, and Alex Sinclair. For now, we just know we've been told there will be more, and Hyde Street will obviously continue. And one
Mm-hmm.
day, we don't know what day or what year even, but there will be a book, I believe, that takes place in the realm of horror, Ghost Machine's horror verse, called Soulless by Lamont McGee.
Mm. Okay,
There's
I
still,
didn't know that.
yeah, there's still more and more horror versity coming up.
I think they should do at least one victim, quote unquote, type story like this a year, whether it's a one shot or a mini series like this or something, because, this wasn't about sisterhood. This was about a couple of sisterhood's victims. The Devour one shot that came out in 2024 wasn't necessarily just about Miss Goodbody. It was about one of her victims. I like that. It builds the world really nicely and expands things. And, I think I said this when I gave Hyde Street the prestigious Baldy Award. It's such an expansive universe, and they do such a good job of maintaining that. So, yeah, I think they should do stuff like this in the Hyde Street universe as often as they can.
Amen. But we're not done with this episode of the Ghost Machine Fans Podcast just yet. And thankfully, the listener mail that we have ahead brings us back to our holiday theme, as it is December 24th. So this is a fantastic question. Would you like to read the listener mail, Rob?
So today we hear from Vanna, who writes, "Hey, Ghost Machine fans, I like to read some of the same comic book issues every December. What is your favorite holiday comic book story?" So she's asking us what holiday themed comics we hypothetically come back to every December.
I just thank you, Vanna, for writing in. I like to think, oh, Snoggle's not here. I messed it up. It's supposed to be called Fantastic Mail. So thank you. I like to think it's Vanna White. It's not Vanna White, but I like
No,
to think it is. So, but I'm sure that our Vanna is even better than Vanna White.
naturally.
But I love a super good question, because I totally do. But what are your thoughts? Do you have Christmas or holiday or any type of holiday comic stories you like?
Well, we're venturing in and outside the Ghost Machine universe here,
Oh,
correct?
totally.
Because if you want to stay in the Ghost Machine universe, I can recommend the Rockefellers #2,
Mm-hmm.
and I can recommend Hyde Street #3, both of which came out this time last year. Very nice holiday additions to the Ghost Machine universe. When I saw this question, there were two stories that jumped into my mind, both of which came from the DC Comics universe, because I was largely a DC guy growing up. The first one was published in, I think, the late 90s, shortly after Lex Luthor becomes president of the United States in the DC universe. And it's just, I honestly don't know what the issue itself is, but it's collected in the Superman President Lex trade. But it's a Christmas issue where Superman goes around visiting all the Justice League members and, Aquaman, Plastic Man, Wonder Woman, etc., and gives them little gifts. And then he gets to Batman near the end, and Batman just says, "When the time is right, we'll take down Luthor." So it's, despite this horrible thing that has happened, they have hope. And I think that's a great holiday message for people, who might be facing difficulties around the holidays. You never know, but it's a nice way to inspire hope, as superheroes are often designed to do. The other one I can get specific on, it's Detective Comics number 826, which came out in the mid to late 2000s. We've got Paul Dini. Paul Dini is the writer. Paul Dini was, of course, a famous well, he still is. He's not dead. Paul Dini is a famous Batman the Animated Series writer. He's done all sorts of Batman projects. Don Kramer is the penciler. Our colorist is someone that I believe we know in the Ghost Machine universe, John Cleese.
Nice.
Yep. So I didn't mean to tie it in there, but I did. But no, the Joker abducts Tim Drake, Robin, and kind of just ties him up in his car and drives him around the city and just sort of goes on a manic driving spree. There's something about the Joker and Christmas. I don't know what it is, but yeah, that's a favorite of mine.
There's something about the Joker and Christmas. This is a question asking about comics, but we like to watch. There's a Batman the Animated Series episode that it's in, I believe, the first season. It's one of the first few episodes, even maybe.
I know exactly what you're about to say.
Isn't it? It's like the first. It's like the first prominent Joker episode is a Christmas episode.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact name of the episode. I always call it Christmas with the Joker.
Something like that.
Yeah, it's the one where he sings Jingle Bells, Batman Smells, and then blasts off on the rocket-powered Christmas tree. You can tell that's an early episode because Batman is kind of talking to Robin like Adam West used to do in the 60s. You can kind of tell that they haven't quite figured out who everybody is yet and what their voice sounds like. So they're kind of deferring to the classic formula from the 60s. But yeah, great episode. Classic show, as everybody knows.
Yeah, you just made me think of that when you said that. And many other holiday movies that get repeated in my house at this time of year. Batman Returns, another good superhero Christmas one. But
yeah,
comic book stories. So there's an X-Men issue. It's in the 80s. So I believe it's Uncanny before the new series came out. And it involves Santa and the realization that Santa is, I believe, a mutant and the most powerful mutant in the world or whatever. And that sounds more tongue in cheek than I think they play it, if I recall correctly. But that's just one that I think of that I wanted to mention. I don't read that every year necessarily. There is a really cool issue of Spawn that I don't really always go back and do this, but if I remembered to, I would go back and do this, but now I'm going to do it this year. But there's a really relatively early issue of Spawn. I think it's in the first 100 issues. And it's a story where, he's bouncing around the evil guy places and he ends up in a bad part of town and he overhears a conversation between some parents that are not the greatest parents, and there's a little kid and then he has a kind of an interaction like that that's a little Batman-y but with a darker sheen to it, and McFarlane's twist on what is normally a heartfelt kind of superhero child interaction story. And it's got a sweet cover. It's an iconic cover of Spawn with a sack of toys and a Santa hat. Really cool cover, really cool figure of that cover exists. Statue of that cover exists. So that's one that just comes to mind. I did also think of the Hyde Street issue that you were talking about for sure, and that the Rockefellers continues to have a Christmas tree theme. Whenever we see it go back and forth, a pine tree theme too. I also am a huge Hellboy fan, and there have been many awesome Hellboy Christmas specials. There was a really cool Krampus one that I do read. That I read that one and another one of the Hellboy Christmas specials every year. So yeah.
Yeah, Christmas stories don't always hold up for me, but when you get the good ones, when you get the ones that are really strong and really hit, they're with you for forever, virtually.
And there are some really good holiday stories in the Jeff Johns JSA era and the David Goyer JSA era, I feel, where everybody got together and had a meal and put aside their grumpy whatever and blah, blah, blah type of thing.
I do remember. I don't, you might yell at me. I don't know if I've read that, but I'm definitely familiar with the visuals that you're talking about. The whole everybody comes together for the holidays type thing.
Yeah. I remember Ted Grant having to, he wanted to seem tough, like he wasn't interested in all the Christmas giving, whatever. And then somebody pointed out that the gym that he owned, like Wildcat Ted Grant, was giving away like an enormous amount of money to the homeless and doing all this stuff. And he didn't want anybody to know about it. And it was like those kind of things where you wouldn't expect it in your normal. It's like not just another fight to save a city or whatever.
Yeah. They use it as an opportunity to give us character insight.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was a really great question from Vanna. So thanks for writing in. If you would like to do that and send us a fantastic mail, a comment, a question, a heckle, we would welcome all of the above. You can do so by emailing ghostmachinefans@gmail.com. And before we wrap up, remind everybody where to find you, Rob.
Comic Book Chronicles on TikTok, Comic Book Chronicles Rob on Instagram and YouTube. Like I said, there are other accounts on other social media platforms, but those are the three primary ones.
And if you would like to check out all of our other content, you can do so by going to www.ghostmachinefans.com. There's also a bunch of links in this podcast that I think you can click on that'll take you to that website, as well as our many social platforms and our Discord, which is growing. We're very excited about it. We'd love to have you come join the Discord. You can find the invite on the announcements on the Ghost Machine Comics Reddit, or if you go to the Ghost Machine Fans Instagram page, it's a link in our bio on there. And the wiki is out there. Still looking for more contributors on that. If you're interested, shoot me an email. I'll explain to you what we're looking to do, or send us a DM on Instagram too. That would be great.
And thanks for joining us tonight on the Ghost Machine Fans Podcast.
Horrifying Christmas Podcast.
Yeah.